Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about our HighJump Route Administrator solution. And to get into that, the back office component, the first thing we're going to talk about is the HighJump One Platform. And the HighJump One Platform is really a common platform that we use across all of our HighJump solutions. But in our direct store delivery retail execution piece, we're really going to be focusing on the areas that impact us on here. So first off, HighJump One Platform. This is an HTML5 browser agnostic solution. And as we move along through here, you're going to see that all of the HighJump solutions have this common solution and a common perspective. First off, we can see up in the top right-hand corner which user has signed in. Immediately to the left of that, you can see the little alerts as any users get those alerts for different prompting. Over on the left-hand side, you're going to see menus and shortcuts. And each of those menus is reflected in here where we can actually go see which modules I have installed. So for me right now, I've got my within HighJump One, I've got my image, Omnitech, Pulse, report, my route administrator configuration, and my SkyTrack GPS. And this is really where we get into those things. You can see all of those different pieces, and that will be unique to each user. So if I have a different profile, a different user has a different profile than me, they might have a different menu on what you're looking at. And that's really the basis of what we're going to get started on. The next area is, well, what do we use within HighJump Route Administrator? Well, image. In retail execution, there's a lot of different things that you're going to be collecting, whether those are internal or external data points. All of the documents that we actually complete in the field through Omnitech are electronically stored and available here at 2 or 3 clicks away. So we can start off here by looking at our search capabilities. So I can look at a specific date range, maybe specific customers or routes or invoices to go through and find that. Then once I narrow that search, I can go in here and I see, oh, well, here's my specific accounts on a given date, and I can drill down in here. You can see I drill down into my St. Louis Bar and Grill, and I can see a couple of different invoices on here. The details to give me an idea of which reports and the number of reports for each of those different customers. And then as I drill down within that, I can drill in and click on the little paperclip to see the individual image itself. So in this case, it would be an image of an invoice. And as I click on that, I can see here's the invoice. It pops up. And I've got options in the top right-hand corner where I can go through and I can download that into a PDF. I can email it. I can print it. I can export it. I can do whatever I need to do with that. Now, that's the invoice itself. We might also have what's commonly held as a DSD or a store stamp, where you actually get that customer who wants to stamp it and make sure that that's proof of actual product that has been delivered for that reconciliation and payable side of things. So we call that DSDs or store stamps frequently, but that's actually associated to the invoice as well. So this tries to make it as simple as possible. You're going to look for your invoice, you're going to see the electronic document that we generate as HighJump, and then you're going to get that image that was captured out in the field with a nice paid on it or received or whatever stamp they generate. And those are the key things that you want to be able to track down and how our image solution helps you with a point and a click. The next area that we go into is called Pulse. And this is where we get into our graphical dashboards and analytics. And in here, we're going to go through and look at a few different things. So to start off with, here's a couple of examples of our graphical dashboards. And you can see on the left-hand side, we're talking about route sales. Over on the right-hand side, we've got a nice speedometer showing different individual sales reps and what they've been doing for net sales, retailer sales, and returns. This is all configurable and conditional on what you want to look at. So I've got some different views in here. You could have 3D pie chart, graph charts, speedometers, thermometers, you name it. What's really cool with this is you can set these up so that they can go and use what we call identity claims. So if a sales rep only is allowed to look at the sales for his route, when he looks at that dashboard, he's only going to see that. Whereas a sales manager, she might be able to see multiple routes, but not all routes within the division. Again, those identity claims now permit her to see all the reps within her territory, but perhaps not all the routes from different divisions. We also use this to drive alerts. So this example over here in our truck live inventory where we've got a goal of 400, all these routes are actually above that. So we can actually be alerting drivers, sales supervisors, etc. You can alert them with a report, with an email, with a text, you name it. And that condition for that alert can be driven by our end users. Maybe they want to be looking at that all the time. Maybe they only want to be looking at that at Thursday at 4:26 p.m. And when they are looking for that, maybe there's an extra criteria on how they want to do that. So it really helps drive that. The next step, here's another example on here where we're going through and I'm seeing sales trends by route. I'm seeing individual sales values by route. I'm seeing credits and returns by route. Again, a lot of information in our route world is driven by, no surprise, route. So these are some good examples. And our typical deployment, you're going to go through with 30, 40 template style examples, and you're going to be tweaking those to adjust to your specific needs and your specific desires to manage the KPIs that you care about. In here, we can go through and edit and change the different preferences. So a user that is allowed to do this might be able to change, maybe you're changing colors, maybe you're changing what they're looking at, maybe you're changing the format, kind of a builder or driver of these KPIs. They can also go through and put in what we call marquee. Now, this is the one where you think of the sales lunchroom or the sales room where they've got the big LCD screen and the TV in the corner, and it's just rolling through to see which sales rep is leading the pack this week or today or this month or by brand, by package, however you're driving those KPIs. So it will refresh and keep that onto a cycle. As I go along here, I have individual panel settings as well as I can change the types and the data in the chart and the types of charts and the filters if I want to look at this across different divisions before perhaps I was going to do an export. I can also use this in here to drill down and affect those values and actually export that to get the underlying data if I so desire. Our pulse alert system on here really uses these and drives all this content. So your navigation here, you might be looking at these sort of values as a user or a manager, but you can drive this content to your field users without them actually being a user. They're just receiving an email or a text or a workflow. We're saying, hey, you need to know about this other information. An example of that, here's a really good one. So I can actually see in the bottom left-hand corner where I'm looking at my GPS track, and I can see where the truck is going. And I'm triggering that as I pass one delivery, I'm now triggering an alert to the next customer based off of the geofence. As that device crosses that geofence, I'm sending a text to that customer saying, hey, your delicious maple syrup delivery is scheduled for next. So that text message went to that customer and is telling them, hey, this is what's coming up next. Similarly, we have an alert where it might be sending a text to the sales rep saying that maybe you've got a hotshot order or an additional change or a new route requirement. In this case, I've got a hotshot order for Pita Pit, order 7163 has been added to my route, and it's making them aware to say, hey, I have to go and look at it. Be aware that I have to go and service Pita Pit as well today. So those are some of the things with our analytics that we like to go through. The next piece, a more traditional report, the row and grid style information. In here, we've got our route launcher. Everything is run through SSRS, and you define the area. So you might have specific areas like route administrator is a common area. Those are our standard reports that come in. But you might split that up where it's office reporting versus route reporting. You might break it up by division, by product, by category, whatever works best for you. And these details come in here. You can go through, you drill down, and then we're seeing a traditional row and column style report. I can export, print, PDF, email, you name it, as I'm going through. This is a pretty typical sales by customer where I'm giving my subtotals of sales, returns, and my total. Using that SRS, I should point out that you can actually do a couple of different things with that in addition to just running the report. So as I mentioned, you can export that, go through it, and use the information that you need. Next piece that I'd like to look at, we saw a little image of that truck and route screen. That's called SkyTrack. So here's another example, a drill down specific of our SkyTrack. So we're looking at a specific truck for a specific delivery day. You can see that part of the route is green and part of the route is red on here. So it's giving some indication this is a live route and this truck is moving. So over on the left-hand side, we can see a specific date and journey of that truck. So this is the route, this is the date, and it's going through and giving you that detail. On the right-hand side, we're now popping up specific GPS details and geofence details. We call them status markers. So you can see a little check mark, you can see the truck, you can see a red X, different details, and I'm going to explain what that is. By looking at the legend, you can see, well, that orange unscheduled or orange check mark is an unscheduled stop. So maybe that's the guy going off the route, going to shop for the afternoon, going to lunch off a territory, going to do something that maybe you don't want him to be doing. Versus a red X, which was a skip stop. So I had a customer, maybe I had a pre-sold order that I had to go service, maybe I was just an actual sales stop. I went there, and for whatever reason, I had to decide the customer didn't want stock, the customer didn't want servicing, but I had to skip that stop. versus say a blue check mark where you actually went in, you tried to service, and you did a no sale. So you saw the customer, and for whatever reason, they just said, you know what, thanks, but no thanks. I don't need anything right now. But it was a successful delivery as you went and you confirmed what they wanted. They didn't refuse anything. The store wasn't closed. You interacted with that customer. So these are the sort of things on there. Just a couple of examples of where you're doing things. The one other one on here is a geofence exception. So you can see the little yellow exclamation part. So in this case, you have the latitude and longitude of your customer. You have a geofence around that customer, but you've created an invoice or a pre-sold order or done a transaction for that customer outside of that. So that might be all right, it might not be. The fact that you have so many on this route leads you to maybe ask another question of why are you generating these invoices somewhere other than where that customer is. And each of these tiles that goes through explains the details as I've just talked about, and those are some keys. When I get into the route administrator piece, now I'm talking about the actual back end, the driving, the business rules, and the things that we do to make sure that Omnitech works the way we want. So I've got different controls on here where I can actually send down messages or images or planograms. I can go through and manage the actual transactions on how they work, what's allowed, cases versus eaches, cases and eaches, etc. I might have additional integration details from the ERP where I'm doing manipulation on that data. Or perhaps I'm actually manipulating and controlling the uploads from the ERP. I've got utilities on here as well, and those utilities and options drive the behaviors that you want. Do I want to collect a PO number? Do I want to prompt with a build to? Am I going to use predictive ordering or suggested order rules? All of those things. And the last piece that we wanted to talk about here is our projected customer visits. So this is something, it gives us a little prompt across the bottom saying never allow a customer to be out of stock. That's the ultimate goal here. So I had a filter screen, a query screen at the front here where I defined how many weeks of sales that I want to look at, what is the time window that I want to look at, and now I'm drilling into the actual detail. So the last time I was at this customer, this particular item, I had a specific quantity on hand. I'm going to look at that. Based off of what I put in for, maybe I'm looking at the last trailing 6 weeks, trailing 12 weeks, last 43 and a half days, whatever that may be. It's saying this is the average number of sales per day over that time period. The longer the window, the smoother the line. The shorter the window, the more reactive you are to adjusting sales trends. The next one is the projected quantity on hand. So my target date, if I'm looking today is Tuesday and I want to look at Thursday, I've looked backwards for 6 weeks to see what my average sales are. And I want to know, I'm going to go out there, I'm looking at Tuesday, I'm going to go out there on Thursday. Will I have quantity on hand when I get there? This is the point of what this really does. Do I want to know and do I want to allow an out of stock to happen if I can anticipate that already? So if I know I'm going to be out of stock before Thursday or Friday and it's Monday or Tuesday today, do I want to just sit on my hands and let that happen? Or do I want to identify that and potentially run an additional hotshot route to make sure I get additional product out there? And this really just gives you that information. You could take this a step further and drive an alert off of this condition as well. The last one on here, oh, sorry, not the last one. The next one here is our build to. This is the current build to. Build tos can be used for a lot of different things. Sometimes that's all the shelf space you have. I can fit 8 cases on that shelf. Other times, it's a projected quantity based off of the sales that you wanted to do. So as of right now, my build to will be flagged. The current build to will be flagged there. This tells me the number of days until my stock runs out. And this is an interesting one because across the bottom we're saying never allow a customer to be out of stock. And I would definitely use this to alert me if I could project and say, well, based off of the trailing 6 weeks trend and based off my last quantity on hand, I'm going to run out of stock. I'm really worried about that. But this one tells me the number of days until I run out. Well, if I'm projecting to go out on site in 3 days, 5 days, 2 days, 1 day, whatever it may be, and my replenishment says I'm not going to run out of stock for 14, 17, 21, 3, whatever, something more than that. Well, this is the reason where I'd say, hey, maybe I don't need to run that route. Maybe I don't need to have this stock on that route. And I might actually look at that and say, well, yes, I want to prevent my customer from running out of stock, but I also want to save money if I don't have to run. I could go through and maybe reallocate my stop sequence and adjust that. My suggested replenishment quantity here is based off of the parameters saying, okay, well, previously I'm suggesting I'm going to run out of stock in 21 days. Well, maybe I want to reduce the stock quantity because I'm putting too much on there. So that replenishment quantity on there. And the last one is that a revision to the build. If I'm going out there every single day to an empty shelf, I need to increase my build. If I'm looking like I'm not going to need to replenish this for 45 days, well, I probably need to reduce my build to. So ultimately, this is just ways to drive the service level out into that field, make sure that you're not running out of stock, but make sure you're putting in an efficient amount of stock as well. So once I've got this up here, up at the top, I've got the option. That last quantity on hand could be captured from the field. It can also be captured by scan-based trading. So one of the things on here gives us the ability to import that scan-based trading. If we know we're taking data dumps multiple times throughout the day, you can either schedule that or you can actually do a manual import to get the latest and greatest data on there. My next screen on here is really driving my integration. So our integration toolkit is both a data mapping and job scheduling utility. This is actual software that's part of Red Administrator, and this allows us to make sure that we are ERP agnostic. So it gives us full control of the table. It allows us to manipulate the data from a techie perspective, ETL, extract, transform, load, where I have before and after scripts, and I can manipulate that as I'm going. So I've got the actual set of imports and exports. I've got the set of tables to manage that data. And that's really the key of what we're doing here and why we don't need to rely on customer services in order to run integration to do what you need. And with that, I'll say thank you for looking at HighJump Red Administrator.